Memory is a funny thing for me. I have a huge gap in my memory in that I don't really remember anything before the age of about 12. My theory for this has always been that my parents got separated when I was about 3, and Bermuda's really small. Have I mentioned that I'm from Bermuda? Anyway, I'm from Bermuda and it's about this big. And so it was small enough that when I was growing up, spent one day at one parent's house and then one day at the other parent's house, back and forth, so that there was alternate weekends. And like one of the things that parents do all the time is tell stories about you when you were young, usually choice embarrassing ones, I've been led to believe. But of course, my parents didn't live together, and the storytelling didn't really happen, I think. And so I just don't have any childhood memories particularly. So I spent a lot of my life not really knowing where any of my stuff was. And I was always and forever without my gym bag. That's one of my strongest memories. Until really recently, I didn't have any personal experience with death other than my nana passed away, and she was always kind of scary. And so I wasn't really sad about that, but I was too young to sort of realize I ought to be sad and that she wasn't all that scary. 2 years ago now? Gosh, has it really been that long? My stepfather died. He was a part of my life for as long as I could remember. And as I've just been through, as long as I can remember starts at about 10, 12-ish. But I have no memories that he is not in. And so that was very strange with him dying. He and I never really got along. But, just having somebody who's always, always been there, just not be there anymore, was really strange. And it definitely affected me more than I've ever expected. I mean, you can never be like, predict how you're gonna feel if somebody who is part of your family dies, I think. And I didn't know, I figured I would care, but I didn't know that it would affect me so deeply. I was really sad for my mom and my little sister. He's my little sister's dad, and she was only 11. But I wasn't super sad for him as a person. Like, he got lung cancer and he was a long-term smoker. And I used to always wish, because he never really took care of himself very well. So I used to wish that he would get sick enough to be motivated to take care of himself better, which is kind of roundabout. I don't know how I ever came to that. But that's what it is. I used to wish that he would get sick and then get better. And then, so in the end, when he did get sick, he just never got better. And I feel like it's a shame. It's a weird sadness in that he was really sick, and towards the end, he did regret a lot of things. And it's like, if it had been something he could get better from, I feel like his whole life would have been different. But you don't get to choose whether you get better sometimes. And that was very emotionally intense. It was sadness in a really different way than I've ever experienced sadness before. The weirdest thing was that, so I spent a month back at home, like helping my mom get through everything, helping with all the paperwork in relation to the funeral, of which there was a lot, and yeah, just being there and being with the family. And then I finally got back to England, and I had been home for 4 or 5 days when I found out that one of my best friends was killed in a bicycle accident in Toronto. And he was somebody that I totally loved and was a completely amazing person and was a big part of my life for the time that I knew him, but I hadn't known him as long. And so that was something that made me really, really sad in, like, I guess the traditional loss kind of way. And it was really strange to have those two things happen so close to each other and go from not having any personal experience with loss to having these two great events happen. And, like, luckily I was able to go to Toronto for his funeral and be with everybody who he had affected, because he was totally an amazing person. Completely one of those, it's like you have to say nice things about people after they die, but every single person meant every single nice thing that they said about him, really genuinely. So it was really great to be back with everybody and just remember him and be so thankful that he had been a part of our lives at all, because there's so many people in the world, you know. It's so nice, and I feel so lucky to have been touched by one of the truly great ones. So, yeah, 2 years ago, those two things happened, and I could never have imagined what it was like beforehand, and it's impossible to describe. And one of the things that all of that happening really made me think of was this part of becoming an adult that nobody mentions, of all of the people around you and all the people that you love dying. It's like the suckiest part of growing up. And I can't personally remember anybody ever mentioning this. Um so it's been, like, really sucky. And the weirdest part is that right when my stepfather was diagnosed, my husband asked me to marry him. And then basically human life became really frail in my world. And it was a really interesting experience being in love with this person and agreeing to have a go and spending your whole life with them, and then being just brutally faced with mortality, and still being like, you know what? Okay, our lives are not gonna last forever. He's a guy, so he'll probably die before me. If not, then it's because I've died in some unexpected way. And it could be really easy to just run away from everyone. But then to face that, to say, okay, we're mortal, let's make a go of it anyway. Let's spend as much of our lives together as we have. I it's been we we just got married this summer, and I hope that I always feel this appreciative. And he's an amazing person anyway, but I wonder if I would be this thankful, I guess, almost thankful, but appreciative of him if all of that hadn't happened. If I hadn't had to face that uncertainty and that mortality right when we were getting together and promising forever to one another. It's been it's been real. Um but we are together, and we're definitely gonna, you know, we're definitely gonna have the fun that we can have and appreciate the times we have together. And I hope that that never stops being the case. So, Nikki Joe, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm thankful for your company.